And the same thing is with here. Yes, Brother Craig.
In this passage, it said the Jews would not borrow from the Samaritans,
Right.
thus not receive a kindness, nor even a morsel of bread or a cup of water. So in her mind is that he's asking for some water, and he said they wouldn't even receive even an act of kindness.
Right.
They would rather drop dead before they accept something that somebody else is offering to them, because they see that they're less than them. And that prejudice is in their mind, not so much in the mind of someone else. It's in their mind that they always go around and think that everyone wants to destroy them. So if someone try to be kind, this have happened to me. Say you try to be kind to someone and they think that you're looking to get something.
What they want? Like, they're so nice to me.
What do you want?
Yeah.
No, I'm just being.
Yeah.
And so it is that you could have that in your mind, and that's what I think the point she's coming from. So she said, here's a Jewish person, and he's asking me, a woman of a Samaritan, water, when the Jews have no dealing with us, right? And that, I think that would have, for me personally, that when someone says something like that, I was like, but you're in need of something, and you can't receive it because sometimes you have this prejudice. So I was just saying that when the disciples weren't there, and the barriers are broken down, because they come with prejudice in their mind also, even though they were disciples of Christ. And so it is that sometimes that's, things that's stopping us from receiving the blessings and all these things. It's all these barriers that we put up and sanctions that we put up, and think that, it's become an hindrance for us to receive blessing because of, could be custom, tradition, whatever. It stops us from receiving the blessing that someone else has to give to us.
Now, keep in mind that these two groups of people, and I'm pretty sure Jesus, as he was growing up, the parents told him, listen, these Samaritans, you got to wash them, right? There's a lot of bad blood, if you will, between them. And the history goes far. Even when the rebuilding of the wall, there's just a lot of not good history here. But they believe in certain things, like the first books of Moses, and they read prophecies of the Messiah. So they had something, right? They were not all right. They were idol worshippers at heart. But they had something, that there was going to be a Messiah coming. And they did study the prophecies, and so Jesus is working with something, right? And it continues on to say, she describes him being a Jew, right? So there was a distinction back then that they knew from dress or the manner, the way they spoke. So she's describing the Messiah right now as a Jew. All right? And in verse 10, Jesus answers back and says, Jesus answered and said unto her, if thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that said to thee, give me to drink, thou would have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. Now, did she understand at this point what Jesus is talking about? But would you agree that something is going on? Right? Because this is, right now, is small talk, right? If you will. But there's something that is going on in her mind. And how do I know? Well, because she continues the conversation. In verse 11, it says, the woman said unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence hast thou that living water? In verse 12, it says, art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? And so at the beginning, she described him how? As a Jew. And now what she's comparing him to? Right? A prophet, so, to Jacob. And so there's a shift in the conversation. Would you agree? Is this sometimes how we witness sometimes? You know, sometimes you're getting to know somebody and it's just small talk. But then next time there's small talk, but then it gets into something else. This is how I see Jesus building this relationship here. And I think it's an excellent pattern. That's something that we can also do when we witness in this well experience. Right now she's seeing just, you know, a thirsty traveler, perhaps even dusty. But what the well that they're drinking at is called what? Jacob's well, right? So in my mind, I was like, okay, she's drinking from a supplanter, like well, right? She's drinking from that type of lifestyle. And Jesus wants to bring her up a little bit. And it says here, Jesus answered and said unto her, whoever drinketh this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in a well of water springing up into everlasting life. And what does she say? She wants the water, right? She says, the woman say unto him, Sir, give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. So she's desiring something, right? So here we have a situation where she sees a Jew, then she compares him to Jacob, the prophet, and now she's asking for what? And you see how Jesus is being so eloquent, very tactful in this conversation. Any of them have drank water at this point? No, because Jesus has some other water that he's offering, right? And Jesus, is for me, I find it very interesting that he switches the conversation. He turns the conversation. She's asking for water. Couldn't Jesus just like given her the water? He could have, right? But why didn't he do so? Like when do somebody should receive that living water? Because if you speak to Christians, sometimes they want to give you that living water. They want to baptize you right then and then, right? Is that right? What is Jesus dealing here with? What kind of person? What is he offering? Can what he's offering go into what she desires? Because she's desiring to drink from a well, right? But he's offering water from another well. Living water. So what does Jesus now has to deal with? Right. Because what does it say in the next? You have a comment?
No, I was going to say that Christ had something to work with, someone that he could work with.
Right.
Because say that it was a custom of the to offer water to someone who's thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
She says that to offer a drink of water to the thirsty traveler was held to be a duty so sacred that the Arabs of the desert will go out of their way in order to perform this work.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at and see when he wasn't dealing with a secular person,
mm-hmm. per se.
Mm-hmm. Right? She had some religious something to
right.
work with.
Right.
All right. They had the Red Crescent. They do charitable work. Mm-hmm. They do things. So you deal with someone not getting up every day doing rage and mm-hmm. stuff like that. And she tried to be hospitable. So Christ knew that there was something there, something bothering her. So when you start thinking that she started put in different diversion.
Mm-hmm.
Christ knew that there's something there to work with, and she's going to try and make excuse. And so we find that it's easier for us to work with someone who
Mm-hmm.
they have some value in life, they value certain things,
Mm-hmm.
than to work with someone that just like outright, they're
Mm-hmm.
antagonistic toward anything religious.
Mm-hmm.
But she was willing, like, okay, he's offering me something, this living water. She started talking about Jacob. Thing about Jacob is called the father of the what? So she's starting to go back and says, our fathers did this, provide this.
Mm-hmm.
She's drawing up on something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just empty. You're not naming an empty, empty vessel.
Mm-hmm.
There was something there that Christ was working with.
Right. Yeah, because when we, like, this is a well experience, right? And I'm trying to make the comparisons to a church. Church is a well, isn't it? And when people come, like this woman, to the well, what are they, what is going to be their experience? And so there has to be some knowledge among the people in the church how to take this individual from just seeing a dusty traveler to now saying, oh, give me this water. That there has to be a process, right? And sometimes people coming in, they need time to just calm down and reflect on their life. And so we have here a situation where this individual's, I'm getting ahead of myself, but how many husbands she already had? So she has like 5 husbands, and she has somebody in her life now. So she's had six men in her life, right? Could it be like if she would have been on a second husband, this would have worked out? Could have she said, okay, give me that living water? And so there's a process that sometimes has to take place, although difficult in the person's life, to say, okay, this is not working. This well that I'm drinking from, it's just killing me. Because I've heard people say, I'm not giving up my culture. I'm not giving up that well. This is my culture. I don't care what people say. And I'm going to eat what I want. I'm going to do what I want. This is who I am, right? And then the doctor tells them something. And then they say, oh, this culture is killing me. Give me that living water. I don't want to die, right? And so this woman is saying, I don't want to die. I want to live. And when we come to that point where we want to live, right, and live life, and we thirst, we say, okay, I want the living water. I don't want the water where it's going to leave me unsatisfied. And so this woman is drinking from a well, and everybody's drinking from some well, right? Do we need temporary water? Sure. But what's going to happen? We're going to thirst again. We want a water that's going to fill us, right? And then we have a desire for more. But it's not the same as not being fulfilled. When we come here to church, this is a Sabbath well, right? Are we fulfilled? Sure. Can it be that God's people go to the well and there's no water? I'm not just talking about, living water. I'm just talking about regular water. That's not even water. And what is their experience? And then when the church gets smaller, right, the pastors are saying, oh, everybody got to drink that living water. But they're not drinking out of the living water. So we have a whole system that needs to be at the well for them to have that experience, for them to drink that living water, and then they can go out and minister to people in a way that fulfills them. Now, up to this point in time, in verse 14, Christ is showing what? Right? Some forgiveness, right? Some grace. It says here, 15, the woman said unto him, Sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. You had a comment? Yeah.
There was something that's profound to me, is that for Christ needed something also.
He desires something too, because he thirsts also, sure.
So oftentimes we go to bring the gospel to someone, but we have no need.
Mm-hmm.
We have no need of nothing. We're only there to give them something. And we're going to give them, we're going to be the gospel, democracy. We went to Cambodia and we bring democracy to Cambodia. We didn't bring democracy to Vietnam. We bring democracy to Iraq. We bring democracy to you name it. We're going to bring, but we have no need.
Mm-hmm.
But Christ here illustrate that he have a need. He make himself vulnerable to them, that he had a need. And he desires something of her.
Mm-hmm.
And you can start a conversation. But if you go to someone and says, I don't need nothing of you, you just need to listen to what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That, sometimes you have to break down the barriers. You have to become vulnerable. All right? You have to let the person know that, look, I'm flesh and blood also.
Mm-hmm.
I can learn something of you. I can learn you have something to offer. If you have a family structure, you're all, last night we were outside, and at one point, we were laughing so much. I was like, man, I think we're disturbing the neighbors. So, it was kind of warm in the evening, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everything else was quiet. And I was saying to myself, I think they need some of that, right? I need some quietness also, but they need family structure around them also, where there's people. So you could think that I'm just there to bring this to someone, but they have something to offer. You're going to bring the living water, but she have the pot to bring up the water that you need. And so I think that what Christ was doing here is breaking that barrier down, where the Jews are there just going, we have the gospel. We have Moses and Abraham's blessing, and nobody else have it. And Christ is saying, but you have something that I need. And we could, salvation is of the Jews, yes, but you have the pot to bring the water.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, because she, go ahead.
I have a question for Brother Green. Is that true for every situation?
I see almost every situation. I see that where but almost every situation, when you come to a point where if you think that I have all the truth, absolute truth, or I have all the things to offer, then if somebody else doesn't have anything to offer, it's almost like you make them become irrelevant. Because if they have nothing to offer you, there's nothing good in their culture, there's nothing good in their system, and you're in need of nothing, then you just tell them, listen, our way is the best way, and it could cause problem and contention.
Yeah, that was a problem with both groups, right? That the Samaritans say, oh, our fathers, because she said, oh, our forefathers. So she's looking back, right? She's looking at the future to the Messiah, but Jesus is saying, I'm here. I'm in front of you. You had a comment.
But what do you do with situations where it's true that there's nothing to gain from the group? Jesus may have had something or needed something from this woman. What did he need from the Pharisees and the scribes?
Christ says that you should hear what they say, all right, but don't do what they do. They say certain things, and you could say that they have the writings, they have the historical record of Abraham and Moses. They have certain things documented. You can say, okay, these are the documentation that they have. They're wicked, and you're not going to follow what they do, but they have the documentation. There's certain things that you could look at, certain things that someone do. Like, as I was saying, we bring democracy to Vietnam. But one thing the Vietnamese have They're a prolific producer of offspring. All right? So if we say we have nothing to bring to them, probably what we should have inquired is that, what do you do so you produce so much? Because we have a growth problem here.
Mm-hmm.
So we could say we have nothing to offer them, but they could have some herbs that we need. All right? They could have a way to show us how do you move through those jungles and navigate certain things in life. And there's things that people have to offer, but if we say we have nothing to offer, we only have napalm and all these things to offer you, and you have nothing to give to us, then you're going to have wars.
When Jesus went to his people, what did he offer them, right? That's what I was thinking. He performed miracles, right? He healed, he fed the hungry, gave sight to the blind, right? Raised the dead. And what did the Jews say? The Pharisees say, show us what? And what did they hate of Jesus? His simplicity. When he went to the Samaritans, what did they ask for? Did he perform any miracles? The only miracle I see that he performed, I could be wrong, is when he was telling the woman at the well her past. Besides that, I don't see anything that Jesus did. And I don't see anything that the Samaritans ask of him, except they ask questions in regards to their misinterpretations and their questions of Scripture. But if anything, shouldn't the Jews behave like the Samaritans? And the Samaritans like the Jews? Does that make sense? Right?
Even the example you use about even with Mary and Martha, if you notice that Mary and Martha, they needed Christ to do a miracle for them, right, to raise their son. But Christ, it says that Christ...
Lazarus.
Their brother. But Mary and Martha, they took care of Christ. He was never in need. It was where he could go and be comfortably, that his needs were going to be taken care of. And so they needed something from him, but he needed something from them also. He had something to offer.
Because sometimes, what we need is not exactly what we want. And sometimes what we don't need, that's what we want, right? From somebody coming from the city, right, that's poor, and they look at this great big house, and then they look at this little tiny house, what they're going to choose? They're going to choose a big house, right? Because who doesn't want a big house? But is that really where they should be starting off? Young, right? The mind overcompensates sometimes. And I remember reading in one of the books of Ellen White that that's a sin. When we want more than what we need, or we desire more than we shouldn't have. And I think Jesus at this time is fulfilling the ultimate need, of course, of living water, but slowly she's building up the woman, right? He's triggering the thoughts of her mind that from small talk, she's like leaning towards, is this the Messiah? But not really there. And to this point, up to, I say, verse 14, Jesus is offering something, right? Is he giving that living water? Right? Not fully per se, but is he showing the woman a better life? Right? By this time, Jesus has done what? Has he broken down that barrier of saying, listen, I have nothing against you. I'm not prejudiced against you. I have respect towards you. Remember at this time where, how women were treated, like property, right? So here's a woman that's been used and abused, that's been living a promiscuous life, that is a Samaritan, and the Samaritans look down upon her. So the Samaritans are way down here, and she's here. And here's Jesus treating her like someone of value, of someone that can do something, because he's going up to her and saying, listen, can I have something? I don't have anything here to draw water. Can you do me a favor? Can you help me? Think of somebody in that situation where people look down upon her. They look down upon her because there's nothing that she could do for society. And here's Jesus saying, can you do something for me? And I understand it's custom in, in that particular region at that time to go out of their way to give somebody water. But I think that this situation was special because she forgets. She could have just given him water, but then she says, why, you're a Jew. Why you asking me? Like, why you think so highly of me, right? Why you think I can, do something like this? Something so simple. And so Jesus is offering grace. But in the next verse, there's something that Jesus has to deal with, right? And everybody knows, right? And 17, the woman answered and said, verse 16. Jesus said unto her, go, call thy husband and come hither. Oh, man, that hurts. Oh, he knows why you went there, right? Because we have the woman at the well, right? In chapter 4, and then we have Nicodemus. And sometimes we separate them, right? Because they're so distinct. One is PhD, rich, right? A ruler, right? He belongs to the Senate. And now we have this individuals who has 5 husbands on her way to having 6. And I've heard some people say she's ignorant, right? I don't think she's ignorant.
Of what?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think she's ignorant because she read the prophecies, right? She understands that there's something beyond life, even though she's drinking from a different well. But at the same time, because of her mixing with idol worship, there are misinterpretations. So it's not like she understands everything. I understand, but she's not ignorant. She understands there's a Messiah coming. But when it comes to this point in verse 16, I was hurting myself. Because why can't you just give me that living water? Why do we have to go to verse 16? Why can't we just stay in 15? Give me that living water and we're good. Nobody has to know. Why are you doing this? Is this part of the blueprint or ministry of Jesus? Right? Go and sin? You see this? And this is one of the reasons why the Pharisees hated him, because he was rebuking them for their sinfulness. Yes?
But like in all solutions, one has to do like a proper diagnosis. And when he says, she said, he told me whatever I've done. Now, it could be that it was done to her, but she said, I have done.
Right.
So, is it that she did it because she wasn't satisfied?
Right.
Because 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm still not satisfied because
right.
I offer you living water, but I offer you what you want. Right? I'm offering you what you want and you need based upon the diagnosis. Like if there's a disease, one has to diagnose it properly in order to even consider how you treat it, because you're going to treat, you can't treat the liver when you need to treat the kidney. So in my mind, she said, he told me what I have done, not per se what they did to me. And you could deal with a person who, they're, like to me, both of them, Nicodemus and her, the issue there is they're not satisfied with what they have. And I'm sure you go around the world, you're working with people and stuff. You deal with people who, there's something amiss. But they're not telling you that they want something. And life, it's like they're not satisfied with life. And for me, it's part of it is he told me what I did, but also he told me what I needed and what I never got. 5 men and a 6 guys is not doing it for her. And probably there'll be 10. I think Elizabeth Taylor did 8 husbands, not talking about who she dated, like who didn't even make it to the altar. So I think you can, I said this last night, I think sometimes we deal with people people always confused, why would a multi-millionaire or billionaire, why would a superstar be depressed and even commit suicide? But that's just the point. Like they have everything that everybody's yearning after, that big house, as you say, and they're miserable. They don't have that water, and I think it makes life kind of miserable.
Yeah, sure. I just find it very interesting that how the conversation started. And I have something to drink, right? And now, go get your husband. You see the building up, and Jesus is just so eloquent. Like sometimes we just read through the story, but we don't see the eloquence and the wisdom of Jesus, and building relationships with individuals, even with somebody like a Samaritan. Yes.
The book says Christ's method and Christ's method alone will bring true success. He mingled with men as one desiring their good. And so we see the same illustration with the rich young ruler. He wanted that water as our Christ was offering to this woman. And Christ said to him, sell all that you have and give it to the poor. Because what was Christ trying to do? He wanted to try to deal with this underlying problem. And I think sometimes we do church and we do ministry without really dealing with the underlying issue that's really affecting the lives of the people. We do, surface. They come in and they say, all to Jesus I surrender. I say, okay, good, you're baptized. But she could have just said, listen, just give me this water, just baptize me, basically.
Right.
All right? And it would have been okay. People would have said, oh man, she accepted the Lord Jesus. But Christ said, no. Go call your husband. Because that's a bigger problem that we have right here, right? Just the same way Christ said to the rich young ruler, sell out you have and give it to the poor. He had a bigger issue. And that needed to be dealt with. And we all have big issues that we have to deal with. We can't just come and say, I'm good. I'm good, I accept Christ, and I'm good. We all have these things that we have to deal with. And if we refuse to deal with, we're going to be like the rich young ruler. Or we can be like this woman at the well. Come see a man that told me all that I have done. Right? And you could find it that it's a life-changing experience, because it's not enough to say that these men did this to her. But she also was playing the game. And she admitted that she was playing the game.
Do you think up to this point, if the disciples were there, this would have gone this far? You see the what happened? Oh, okay. The disciples had a long way to go, right?
Yes.
And Jesus is here trying to bless this woman, bless the disciples, and bless us today. But do we see that today? Do we see this story and say, oh man, I got to go get my husband or go get my wife? Wait a minute. That's not my wife or husband. Do we see that today, though? Because we read the story and it's like, something that happened a long time ago. But Jesus is telling us today, here am I am he. Because don't we all believe in the Messiah? Shouldn't we be the best witnesses, let's say, for example, to a Muslim person, to somebody Hindu, right? Shouldn't we be the ones, the best, in the best position to talk about the living water? But here's Jesus saying, go get your husband. So don't we have something to deal with too? 17, the woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said unto her, thou hast said well, I have no husband. For thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. And that sayest thou truly. And how does she describe him now? Remember at the beginning, you being what? And then compare her to who? Jacob? Are you like Jacob? And now? You see how Jesus is building up this woman's mind? Little by little, she's coming to a full realization that this living water is for her. She's coming little by little, right? You know, there's situations where individuals come to the point and say, you know what, come at a more convenient time. There was no more convenient time for this woman. I think this is it right here. Jesus is right in front of her. Sometimes we have the opportunity, that so-called once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and sometimes we don't see it. Whether we're witnessing or there's some truth that we're hearing, but we don't follow up that can help us, right? Opportunities come and go. But this here is living water. And so I have to give credit to this woman. This woman could have left. She could have said, you know what, let me go get my husband, you're right. And she could have left. But she said, oh, not my husband. I got to give her credit, right? Well, that's part of the eloquence of Jesus. But why was he persistent? Because she stayed, right? She continued with this conversation, this small talk that is building up, and I'm like, oh wow, she's describing him as a prophet now. Yes.
You know, I find situation there's people who would show up to the church. When I was growing up, people would show up to church,
right,
where, you know, they get up in the morning, they leave their house, and come to church on a Saturday. All right?
Yeah.
And they leave and they come into church. And week after week, they just do it. And they'll come. Talking about growing up in Jamaica. They'll come. I mean, grown adult will just come. They'll come and they'll listen to a sermon and they'll go home. And they'll just listen. And you would think that, you know, we have in all these things asking people to dedicate their life to Christ. And this person just come to church and sit down and just go home. And they have to make a decision. But here is it, Christ is engaging with her.
Right.
And she sit there and they say, listen, I have to go home and take care of my husband. She's there engaging in the conversation. All right? He had something. He was working with her and she was receptive.
He was working what?
He was working with her and she was receptive. All right? And at that point, most people, sometimes they just stop. And like, this woman is wasting my time. She's not accepting. She keep on coming with it. But he said, no. She's workable. Christ says, Ellen Joy says that with a rich young ruler, Christ wanted him to be in this ministry. But Christ had asked him to do something, and he wasn't willing to do it. And here is now Christ is asking her to do something. And she's like still engaged, and she's engaging, even to the point where it says, "Go call that husband." And she's saying at this point, "Oh man, I'm found out. All right, I'm found out. You must be a prophet, all right? Because nobody know, you know, people in the community see what I'm doing, but you're a Jew.
You have no dealings with us.
You have no deal with us.
Right.
You must be a prophet to know what's going on."
I'm just thinking what could have been going through her mind now. Because he knows, he found me out. But Jesus is offering something. And I think sometimes we don't follow that process. Sometimes we go to go get your husband, before give me something to drink. So Jesus had to break down certain barriers in this woman's mind for her to come to this point and calling him, oh, you must be a prophet, right? Like the racism, the prejudice, that had to be dealt with. What else had to be dealt with? The truth of that water, that you're drinking from this water, but you're going to drink, be thirsty again. I can offer you something better. right? The forgiveness. Because she could have left at any time. And verse 15, she could have left. Actually, in 16, she could have left and never see Jesus again. But she stayed. She even answered and confessed. And sometimes that's what we have to do in life. And then in 19, she just like, okay, you're a prophet. 19 and 20, our fathers worship in this mountain, and you say that in Jerusalem, and it's in that place where men ought to worship. Oh, what are you doing? Isn't this what Nicodemus did? But how can you be born again? You know, Nicodemus is trying to, see, in certain aspects, I see the Nicodemus and the woman at the well, they're kind of like similar in this aspect. They both want to not go into certain subjects that are unwanted, unwelcome. They want to continue in that, just give me that grace. Lord, oh, that hurts. What is she trying to do here? Does she want that living water? But what she's trying to hang on to. And it's not going to work. You can't hang on to secular life and go after that living water. And some pastors do offer it. Some pastors do offer it. They don't say you can stay sinning and still drink out of living water. But the way they preach and the way they live their lives, they're saying you can do a little bit of this and still have this. I heard somebody tell me when I was very, very young, you could do a little bit of drugs, on the weekend. And I was like, I didn't believe that because I've seen what these drugs do. So he was, I didn't buy into that. And I stayed away from drugs. If I would have followed his advice, what would have happened to me? I don't know. Yes.
Why isn't her question in verse 20 a legitimate question?
Well, what is she trying to do? It is. That's what they did. They worship in one mountain, and what does it say? Our fathers worship in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is a place where men ought to worship. And Jesus said unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. What is she stuck on? She's trying to divert, but what is she stuck on? Rituals, right, and ceremonies. Isn't she stuck on that? If church is not done this way, if it doesn't look this way, if the building doesn't have a steeple, it's not church. Isn't that what she's stuck on? Yes.
I think that if we look at the formalism, basically, or a form of religion, it was very similar to what the Pharisees were doing, because they were very pious outwardly, but inwardly, like, Christ tells them, you're full of dead bones. So Jesus was there having a dialogue with her to change her mindset, like to deal with the sin problem, with the issue that she was in her life. And she needed to address that before you could even consider, because, yes, you could be worshiping in the proper mount, right? But you're still with on your sixth husband. So what does it matter that you have this form of religion? It's not addressing your lifestyle. And the same thing, like the young rich ruler, we can go to his, yeah, I've kept all the commandments, but you still are not giving to the poor. So this is what Christ was trying to do, was just readjust that religion it's not a form, but it is something inwardly that has to be addressed.
I wasn't going to read this, but I read it because I want you to have an idea of what this individual is going through. Okay, it wasn't an easy experience for her, considering what she's used to. It says here, the listener trembled. A mysterious hand was turning the pages of her life history, bringing to view that which she had hoped to keep forever hidden. Who was he that could read the secrets of her life? There came to her thoughts of eternity, of future judgment, when all is now hidden shall be revealed. It is light conscience. In its light, conscience was awakened. And so here, there's a battle going on in her mind, I think. Because she's not denying, right? But at the same time, she's trying to evade. And she's trying to quiet or silence conviction by pointing to some religious controversy. Right? But when you look at Jesus, he's still, what is he doing? He's still persistent, but at the same time, he's patient. And he still continues on the conversation. You have a comment?
What is it really, though, a controversy that she's trying to engage in? I almost wonder...
Well, she's pointing to that controversy because both sides had...
I was going to say, I think what's interesting about this is that we start off, the interaction starts off, or her reaction to the interaction, and Jesus is making an overture to her, is, how is it that you're a Jew and you're asking me for water? And then we go around and then we come back to that point again. Okay, well, I think you're a prophet. So who is right? Because our fathers worshipped here, but you guys say that we're supposed to worship there. So who's right? I almost wonder if this is at a point where she's now really starting to be convicted, but she's still looking for answers herself. Because from the next couple of verses, I mean, obviously she must have been reading something, and she must have had some understanding, and now she wants to know, well, which is right?
I think she's looking for answers. She's pointing. I think she's in between because she's saying to herself, if this is the prophets, he can clear this up. You know, and I think that's important. And Jesus, you know, he's there, but he's looking for an opportunity to bring to heart the true meaning of the living water. Like, it's not that mountain, this mountain, right? Because isn't that the fight today because of that mountain over there? Yes.
So normally how I read that is if you're talking to somebody, there's questions that must be answered, right? And the next, I won't say it because you say it, but the next thing that she had to deal with him is, to me, is there. I see them as legitimate questioning. Like it's like if you deal with a person, you would have to, if you're the teacher, the master teacher, you'd have to know what would be the issues that the person had. Because if he had out for living water and she said, okay, I'll take it, obviously Christ no, there's more issues. And it's the same thing, like what if you're Bible studying somebody and they say, oh, I want to join your church. Unless if you're say, amateur, you would say, okay, come and join. But obviously, if somebody coming from any society, there's going to be some issues. And
sure.
So if she had said, I'll accept it, I want that living water, I'll take it. Well, no, you can't have it yet because you have your personal life need to be sorted out. Your worship need to be sorted out. And to me, the next issue comes up. Christ is very one of the most bluntest thing that he says to her, that to me, and I'll make you say it, but to me, it's a series of, you have to knock down these problems that are obvious in the
Right.
society. It's like if you deal with somebody and they believe in child sacrifice, and they say, I want to accept the Sabbath, and you know it's a culture they're coming from that do child sacrifice, and you don't address that, you're just either immoral or you're a rank amateur. You just want to fill the church up with people that you never address the major issues. That to
Many
me would be
issues,
two
yes.
big issues. It's a big issue.
Yeah.
You can't. How would he give her the living water, and the next issue that we're gonna deal with, to me, is probably one of the biggest issue that should have been dealt with. The personal issue is one big one, but the next one to me is very important.
You see, this conversation is so interesting. And I find the steps in which Jesus takes her. It's like it's like a journey, I guess, right? And she's going with Jesus through this journey, and Jesus is revealing to her the things that she needs to know in order to receive the living water. But she has questions, and so listen. The lifestyle is not going to let you go. You can say, I'm done with that. No. That's not the way it works. The way it works is that you're going to say, I'm done with that. And then that thing is going to grab you by the tail end and drag you back. And so it's dragging her. And she's not, she wants to let go. But there's a struggle, right? And Jesus, does answer the question, yes.
I was going to say that if you notice how Christ deal with it, Christ deal with some cultural issues.
Mm-hmm.
There
Right.
are certain things that if you know there's a culture who's into covetousness, and you have asking people to join the church, and you don't deal with covetousness, you have a problem.
Right.
You're going to drag it into the church, and you find it even with churches that we know. If you don't deal with the underlying thing that's known in the culture, and you find it in the church, it destroy the church.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's never been dealt with, and you have people still hold on to those things. So as Pastor said, he knocks the nail on the head, because you have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we there's a lot to be dealt with. And I'm looking at this lesson. I said, man, I can't go Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, because it's just, for me, I couldn't just break it down into days. There were things that I wanted to talk about that I don't hear. Yes. You have a comment? Okay, you were telling me 5 minutes? Okay.
The question also, since we're almost out of time, is who is more thirsty in this situation, Christ or her?
I would say Christ. I would say Jesus is more thirsty. The woman is more thirsty. She's thirsty, and she has that need and that want. But I think Jesus' desire is deeper because of him leaving heaven and willing to die. There are some individuals I think that would die, but I think that the desire is deeper among Jesus because he purposely went there for her. Like before she desired Jesus, Jesus desired her first. And so he deliberately went there specifically for her. And I think is a wonderful way in which how Jesus ministered, because he ministers to one individual. That one individual will run back, get some people. They come. And now, not because of you're telling us, but we ourselves have seen. And then they go back to the rest of the people. Because not all the town came out, right? It was a gradual buildup. And I think this is a strategy that Jesus used. And I think that as far as the desire, I think Jesus desires us more than we desire him, because how does this earth describe? Like a speck of dust, right? And Jesus is like, no, I don't care. I'm going to do this. And he went through so much, even though he didn't have to. So I think that Jesus desired the woman more. We can never desire Jesus more than he desires us. That's what I think. Because for eternity, we're going to be in that living water. You know, So I think, when we look at the woman at the well, she has something to work with. When we look at the Ethiopian, for example.
Go to the next point, because it's important.
Oh, okay, we'll go on. Verse 22, ye worship, ye know, now what we know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. God is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. The woman said unto him, I know the Messiah is come, which is called Christ. When he is come, he will tell us all things. Jesus said unto her, I that speak unto thee am he. Is the woman convinced now? And upon this came his disciples and marveled that he talked with the woman. They have no idea. They're off. Yet they're after like physical food. Yet now no man said, what seekest thou, or why takest thou with her? The woman then left her water pot and went her way into the city and said unto the men, come see a man which told me all things things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ? Then they went out of the city and came unto him. In the meanwhile, his disciples prayed him, saying, Master, eat. You see how they're in a different level? That their thought is on this earth, on the physical things. Jesus, on the other hand, he's thinking about something more than what this world has to offer. He said, I have meat to eat that ye know not of. Therefore said the disciples one another, hath any man brought him aught to eat? Jesus said unto them, my meat is to do the will. Isn't that what he said to his parents? Like, they're asking him, where were you? He said, don't you know I got to be about my Father's business? And this is what he's trying to relate to the woman. Do you have a comment?
No, I just wanted to just make a point to illustrate that this woman was not ignorant. If you look at verse 25 says, I know that Messiah cometh, and he is that the one that called the Christ. When he come, he will explain everything to us.
That's what she did.
Right.
Which Christ did. So when Christ said, I am he, she said, she know what she's looking forward to. And so you think there's people who are desiring things and they're looking forward to things. And you just need someone to go, as it says, explain to them the plan of salvation.
Right.
But they're looking. They know that there's something coming. There must be a deliverer. We can't be suffering all this suffering. There must be something better. And Christ says, I am he. You're looking forward for deliverance. All these men just abusing you. And you need a structure in your life. And Christ came to give her structure. The system, as we look at it now, is looking for something, and people desire relief. And everywhere they're looking at, they can't find relief. Because the people who are supposed to bring the relief, they don't know what they have to offer. Christ knew what he had to offer this woman. Mm-hmm. He has something to offer to her. The living water will make her lives even better, and it will be better for society. I think that what we find right here is that she was desirous. She didn't just come by the well. This 25 right here showed that she was looking for something.
Mm-hmm. She forgot about her thirst, his food. Like there was life came into her, and she was able to do something which the disciples at that point couldn't do. Yes.
That's why you comment on salvation is of the Jew.
Right. It says here, in answer to the woman, Jesus said, believe me, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. Ye worship ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Jesus has shown that he was free from Jewish prejudice against the Samaritans. Now he sought to break down the prejudice of the Samaritan against the Jews, while referring to the fact that the faith of the Samaritans was corrupt with adultery. He declared that the great truth of redemption have been committed to the Jews, and that from among them the Messiah was to appear. In the sacred government, and the sacred writings, they had a clear presentation of the character of God and the principles of his government. Jesus classed himself with the Jews as though whom God had given a knowledge of himself. So by this point in time, I'm out of time. But we have an individual here that had a state of mind that appreciated the things of God. If you, for example, no matter where it is, no matter who it is, could be a Samaritan, a Gentile Jew, it doesn't matter who it is. If they have that state of mind that they appreciate the things of God, you have something to work with. Despite the fact that they have, 5 husbands, or despite the fact that they have, 5 wives or whatever, and they don't understand everything, and they may, for example, have difficulties leaving that life behind, you have something to work with. You will see that there will be persistence, and you have to go back to John 4. Look at what Jesus did. Look at the pattern and build like Jesus did. And so in that way, we'll be able to have somebody that'll be able to drop that water from Jacob's well and pick up the living water and be able to expand by letting others know, look, I'm giving up all things that I've done before. And so I'm out of time, but thank you so much for joining us here at Covenant Advent Church. We're studying the woman at the well, and I pray that you may study this on your own, John chapter 4. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brother Otero, for going over this week's lesson. I'm going to just do a very, very short reading. But I think it's amazing, this story. I think sometimes we don't assimilate ourselves to that story because we're like, I don't have 5 husbands, or on my 6th husband, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that. But nonetheless, we all, like Paul says, we all have fallen short of the glory. And it's amazing to see how even though God knows that we have a lot of deep secrets, dark secrets, and yet nonetheless, he still wants to deal with us. He still wants to save us. He still wants us to come into the knowledge of Christ and have this hope. So I'm going to close out with a very, very short reading from the Ministry of Healing, page 25. And it says here, he, referring to Jesus, passed by no human being as worthless, but sought to apply the healing remedy to every soul. In whatever company he found himself, he presented a lesson appropriate to the time and the circumstances. Every neglect or insult shown by men to their fellow men only made him more conscious of their need of his divine human sympathy. He sought to inspire with hope the roughest and most unpromising, setting before them the assurance that they might become blameless and harmless, attaining such a character as would make them manifest as the children of God. And this is what we see with the women at the well, and with us. Let us close with the hymn number 495, Near to the Heart of God. 495 will be our closing hymn.
Please rise as we turn to our closing hymn, hymn number 495. Hymn 495. There is a place of quiet rest near to the heart of God, a sense where sin cannot molest, near to There is a place of full release near to the heart of God, a place where all is joy and peace, near to the heart of God. Oh, Jesus, blessed Redeemer, sent from the heart of God, hold us who wait before thee, near to the heart of God.
Let us have our closing word of prayer. Dear Lord, we ask that we may be able to each day purpose to be able to be near to your heart, Lord, to be able to be in that quiet place, that we may be able to think upon your words, think upon the hope that we have in this plan of salvation that was carried out for us so that we may be reconciled unto thee. I ask, Lord, that you may be with us the remaining of these Sabbath hours, and that all that is said and done may be to your honor and glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. We thank you for joining us during our Sabbath school hour, and we look forward to you joining us back again at 12:15 for our divine service. We look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.